on this computer. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Antonison, and I'm the organizer of Nashville Data Nerds. With me tonight is Landry Butler, who is leading a conversation about robots are coming for your data. Tonight's sponsor is my consulting group, Antonison Consulting Group. Through ACG, my focus is to work to support my clients to help them grow through efficiency by offering guidance and building scalable data applications. Two associated organizations that I am huge fans of are Nashville Software School. It's a fantastic nonprofit bootcamp that if you're interested in getting into IT and leveling up your tech skills, ranging from software development to data, working in data like data analytics and data science, highly recommend checking them out. Penny University is a nationwide group of people that just love coming together to talk about topics of common interest. Data Nerds is big part of that, but we also have people that like to talk about, investing and other things. So highly recommend checking Penny University out. Tonight's agenda. So based on this being a Zoom meeting and, can't really have multiple people easily talking at once, Landry will spend the first 30 minutes of the meetup, really just focusing on presenting the topic. And I will be moderating the questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to go to the chat, post the questions there. And then when Landry has like a logical stopping point, I'll present those questions to him. The last 15 minutes will be that more kind of open conversation. And as usual, I am recording this and I will work with Landry to get all the slides and resources put together and sent out. But without further ado, going to kick it over to Landry.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out. It's good to see you. Good to be back at the Data Nerds meeting. And I'm talking about robots. Robots are coming for your data. First off, just to introduce myself, I am Landry Butler. I've been fortunate enough to have had a long career here in Nashville. I've done some graphic design, I've done some web development, an artist, and in 2020, I did the data analytics program at Nashville Software School, graduated from that, and now I'm working at MP&F, where we have a lot of data. And when talking about automation, one of the reasons for automating is that there's so much data going on. There's a recent study that the Internet Advertising Bureau did where they determined that the internet economy is growing 7 times faster than the US economy. And so every day there's more data coming in from our cell phones, from our online use, credit card use, medical use, whatever. All of that data is coming into a computer system somewhere. And people need to analyze that data to know what it says, to know what it tells the business, and how they can serve their customers better. The automation part of it, it allows us to increase our accuracy and consistency. I'm sure you've all had times where you're working on a project and maybe you work on this type of thing once a month or once a year. And so even if you have a checklist, those steps might not be right at front of your brain when you're working on it. And so sometimes it's not processed exactly the same way as before, and you might get the little different results. When you have an automation set up, every time it runs the exact same way as the last time. And this allows you to accomplish more with less effort. And it's also scalable. As more data comes in, you can scale to deal with that larger data. There are a lot of tools at our disposal. We already mentioned Python a couple of times. That's one of Alex's favorite tools. It's one of my favorite tools. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with macros in Excel. That's a form of automation. And then a new field, robotic process automation, or RPA, is bringing these software robots to our automation toolkit, which we can use for just a whole lot of things. I'll get into that a little bit later. At MP&F, most of the data that we get is social media related. Sometimes we get that from a direct connection, like with Google Analytics. Sometimes we have an intermediate connection. For example, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter, we connect to those through Report Dash. When we get Excel files, the XLSS format allows the vendor or the client to put data in multiple tabs. And so when we use that in our reports, we like to split those tabs out into individual CSV files, which, as you know, they're just flat text files. Occasionally, we get data in as a PDF. A lot of those times, the PDFs have been made from a Word or an Excel product, and it's easy enough to extract that data. But sometimes we get stuff that's been scanned and saved as a PDF. So that means either manual transcription or some sort of OCR tool to actually read the image. Google Sheets is where we store most of our data. It makes it easy to work with, easy to share. But we also use Google Cloud and Cloud SQL, which have some advantages over Google Sheets. We can store more data. We don't have the limit of however many millions of rows that you get with Google Sheets. Google Cloud also has other options. There's a NoSQL option. They offer object storage, BigQuery, and a lot of other tools. And then when we use Tableau, generally that data is stored in a Tableau extract, which allows a little faster processing so that the Tableau reports run faster. Tableau and Google Data Studio are the two main visualization tools that we use. There's a lot of other things out there. Microsoft has Power BI. There's products similar to Tableau, which I'm drawing a blank on it, but it's a free product. Google Data Studio is also a free product. And all of these things, they plug into the different forms of data, the different data sources we need. We can extract that, pull it in our reports, and do what we need to do with it. Google Sheets, it's like Excel, but it's better. This allows us to store and share data in the cloud. We can share it with different reports. We can share it with the team members. And one of my coworkers, Alex Ryan, is on the call as well. He discovered a thing called Google App Script, which is amazing. It's like a macro that you would use in Excel, but supercharged version. It's based on JavaScript. It has a cloud-based debugger. In addition to making macros to automate, you can create custom menu items. You can create custom functions. You can interact with other Google services like ads and analytics. And in the reference slide at the end of the presentation, you'll see a link to a site by Ben Collins. He has a great tutorial on how to use Google App Script. What we're looking at here is a Google Sheet that I pulled out that uses App Script. The blue columns contain data that's automatically populated. The white columns contain data that's manually populated. This is a little video. I'll just run this and let you see as I talk over it. We start this automation by entering the date, and then you can see here we're scrolling way to the right, way to the left to see all of these columns that have to be populated. The columns, the blue ones, contain formulas, and these formulas relate to the data in the white column. Now I'm clicking here in this first empty column in B, and boom, the script runs. All of that stuff is populated. And Now there's just some manual data that needs to be entered, which will be automated in another process later on. This is Python, again, running from Google Colab. Google Colab is a cloud-based hosted thing that allows us to, wait a minute, got ahead of myself. Python, sorry. Python is your friend. Python is used in web development. It's used in software development, and it's used in data analysis. Very versatile tool. And at MP&F, we run Python in two different ways. We use Google Colab, and we have a dedicated server for clients that need that. Now, this is Google Colab. And this is, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Jupyter Notebooks. This is a cloud-based version of Jupyter Notebooks. Being cloud-based, if I set up a script in this and I'm out of town or, get hit by a bus or whatever, another team member can just come in and run this as needed from the cloud. This particular thing, I'll talk you through this video as well. You can see that the gray boxes are where my code is. The white boxes are where my comments are. And as we scroll down, it inputs, loads some files, and it takes those files, it separates the data out from the tabs of the XLS files. It formats some dates. It formats some column heads. It adds columns as needed. And then it spits the whole thing out as 4 separate CSV files, which you'll see that in just a second here as we're scrolling to the bottom. I like to comment a lot of my work, like we were talking earlier with regex. You do this stuff and it works fine. And then a month later, 2 months later, you come back, you can't remember what you were doing, what you were thinking. Why did I do it this way instead of that way? So commenting everything helps out a lot for that. On the left pane here, you can see I'm adding some files to this Colab virtual machine thing. I'm going to scroll back to the top and run the script. And now you can see that it's at the bottom of the screen there. It takes those 4 files, output files, sends them to the desktop where we can use them in other ways. The script also shows snapshots of what's in those data files so that I can spot check it, make sure that it's right before it gets loaded. These particular files end up as in the Google Cloud. And this little column here on the left, the output files will show up in there as well, but there is a delay. You notice it downloaded them long before they showed up in this left-hand pane. That's just a feature maybe, or a bug of Colab. It does not affect the way it works with your data though. And so it's sometimes it's inconvenient, but it's not a real problem. Another way to run Python is a dedicated server. Dedicated server guarantees that you always have resources and you can scale quickly. You can use cron or Windows scheduler to run a script on a dedicated server and make it 100% hands-off. So we'll go through this one a little bit. This is a script, shout out to Atiba. I started this script in Google Colab as a Jupyter Notebook, and then we sent it over to Atiba where they added some code to make it run with HubSpot. This particular script grabs some files off of our FTP server. Client puts them there every morning about 6, 7 in the morning, grabs those files. Again, they're Excel files, multiple tabs. It splits those tabs out in individual CSVs, does some transformation, and then loads those files directly into HubSpot through the API and sends a confirmation email saying, hey, this script ran, we loaded these data into HubSpot, we ran into these errors, and just makes this whole thing so much simpler. This is something I'm particularly proud of, just because the manual version of this process took about 15 minutes a day to run. With 5 people on the team, that's 75 minutes a day that we would spend on just grabbing those files and essentially loading them into HubSpot. 75 minutes a day works out to 300 and some hours a year. This script runs in a matter of seconds every morning at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And that frees up everyone on the team to spend their 15 minutes a day doing something else. It saves the company money, and it allows us to work more efficiently for our client, which is always a good thing. Some of you may be familiar with Tableau. Tableau has a tool called Tableau Prep Builder, which I can't exactly show you how this works, but I will show you, give you a screenshot of it. Tableau Prep Builder has a drag and drop interface and the ability to step through the flow when you are in the debugging process. You can save your output to Tableau server to use directly in the Tableau report, or you can output a CSV file that would go into Data Studio or another program like that. Tableau Prep also works with Python and R. And you can see this flowchart thing. This is the interface for Tableau Prep. These circles here are our data sources. This particular client has a number of centers that are located all across the US. And we want to match the list of the centers with these data, which are updated regularly and sent to us by the client. In this particular client, their Idaho center has some special things that we need to account for. So their data comes from a separate source. And then we also pull in state names and zip codes. Joining all of this together, I have 2 output steps here. And these output steps, this first one allows me to output to a file, CSV file, so that I can check the data, make sure it does what it's supposed to do. This is a process that runs a handful of times a year, and sometimes the client will change up their input format. And so I want to be able to make sure that everything is the way it should be. And once I check that out, I click on this output section here, and that sends the data to the Tableau server, where we can use it in our Tableau reports. And finally, robot process automation. Automation Anywhere is one of the many RPA packages that are out there. This is one that I've tried, and it's got amazing potential, not only in data analysis, but in automating other types of business data in human resources and finance, client data, whatever you have. This particular software package, it can do that. And it runs kind of like a macro. These are a list of steps in this particular process. And you can see most of them start with the word recorder. That's because when I generated this, I clicked this little recorder button up here, and then I just step through the steps, which is basically going to this website, entering the user ID, password, clicking the login button, going to the insights page, and then downloading some reports from that. This particular thing, Automation Anywhere, is a Windows only product. So if you're on a Macintosh, you'll need to run it in a virtual machine. It works just fine that way. And it can scrape web data. It can copy and paste. You can parse emails. You can connect to APIs. It's got an OCR package built in. So if you've got a stack of PDFs that someone has sent you that were all scanned in, and you need to load that data into your system, this product can do that. And it saves a lot of time. It allows you to work more efficiently, do more in less time. It does have a steep learning curve. The automation people like to talk about how easy it is and how much time it will save you, and that's all true. But some of these things do have learning curves. This Automation Anywhere package, however, they have a free community version, which you can try out, use it as much as you want. And they do offer free online training to help get you started. So just to wrap up here, and then we'll take some questions. Every day there is more data to be analyzed. Data is coming from everywhere. People are putting, computers in anything that can be computerized. They're linking these things up on the internet. They're making them internet aware, internet active. And so there's a lot of data that can be processed. Doing it with automation simplifies the process, increases our accuracy and our consistency of a process, and it's scalable to meet our future needs. It's really the new industrial revolution, and it's going to change the way that we work. So here are my resources, and I will take questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. That's it for me. Are there questions? I don't see the
there hasn't
thing.
All
Okay.
right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Taylor. You can just go ahead and ask.
Oh yeah.
Well, then I have to talk in public. Come on now. Yeah, so Landry, as you were looking at RPAs, did you dig into any alternatives to the Automation Anywhere?
I did look at some of the, I wouldn't say I dug in, but I did look at some other things. There's a thing called Solanis that does some automation. There is, let's see, I've got a note here about another. There were 2 or 3 of them that I looked at in addition to Automation Anywhere. I had a chance to talk with a couple of the sales guys from Automation Anywhere, though, and they ran through a demo, and that kind of gave me a jump start on that. So that's what I went with for the RPA. But there are a lot of other products out there. Have you done any of that, Taylor?
Nope. Mostly new stuff.
Yeah.
One of the MLS company, one of our clients was starting to look into some of that for the PDF reason. They had a nice access database full of PDFs that needed to get shredded out. So
yeah, that could be. I don't even want to think about that.
I didn't either. I said old company.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and I think there's a way to upload a PDF into Tableau and it spit it out in a table a lot of the time. Sometimes it can be a little wonky, but it's a good little hack around getting a PDF file and creating a CSV.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Alex and I work together at MP&F, so we spend a lot of time talking about automation and how we can make our lives a little bit easier. Yeah, on this this list here, this reference list, Google has some good information on using their Colab process on Google App Scripts. And I put a couple of books on here too, the Tableau Prep cookbook and automating things with Python. Those have been helpful to me.
So I have two questions. My first question are, what are you, at the beginning of automating a process, what steps do you take where you have this process where someone's doing something manually? What decisions are you making? What tools are you looking at from going from this process is being done manually to getting it automated to where you have it being run on that, that one script you have on your dedicated server?
Sure. That started by just trying to get an idea of each step, get the steps down and get this process down on paper, whether it's, we want to take this file, we want to split the two tabs out into CSVs, and we want to make sure that all the column names, match a certain type that we have, that they have the same names, they're spelled correctly, that sort of thing. And then what I do is, because I have a little bit of a programming background, I try to break it down into the smallest pieces as possible and just, write a bunch of little scripts that just do one thing. I'm going to take this column and I'm going to copy it over here and I'm going to transform it in some way. I'm going to take this data sheet and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to that. And then I link those little script lines together in Jupyter Notebook. And so that allows me to test each step individually, makes it a little easier to find where things break before I get too far into it. And the particular thing where we had it run on the dedicated server, some of those things I could not figure out on in Jupyter Notebooks with their Python, using Python that way. And specifically the HubSpot API, which documentation is kind of sketchy for that. It's not really up to date. And so we called in someone with a little more experience so that they could go through and do that. And we got the added benefit of having that Jupyter Notebook rewritten into, now we've got essentially two Python files. One contains, all the variables, so username, password, all of that stuff, content of the email that goes out. And then the other one is just a script that goes, okay, I need to take this and I go to this file and grab it. And that tells me where to go on the FTP site and what file to get. And when I pull that file down, it tells me, where to store that file, how to process that file, as well as move it on the FTP site into an archive folder, so we can keep all of those original data files. And, if we need to, step back through it manually.
My second question is, so you identified quite a few tools. Like, what decisions are you making when you're picking, when are you using Tableau Prep Builder versus writing a Python script versus writing a Google Sheet app script?
Good question. Yes. In the case of Tableau, our Tableau subscription is paid for by one client. And so they're the ones that benefit from all the Tableau stuff. Although sometimes I've just in learning to use Tableau Prep, I have used it to generate some CSVs for other projects. On the other projects, most of the data is stored in Google Sheets. Mm-hmm. And so using that Google App Script is the best option for that. Before we started doing that, I would sometimes use Python to just, take that CSV and do what I needed to do and then put it back in Sheets. Now the actual, most of the times when I use Python in the Colab environment, It's when the client is sending Excel files or multiple CSV files, and they just need to be processed. For example, today's the first of the month. So one client sends us, I think I probably got 30 or 40 CSV files that showed up today, one for each location that they have. And those files need to be aggregated, combined together. And that's a Python process that I use for that. And some of the things, one thing I did mention, Microsoft Access, I believe it is, that's their database product. We don't use that as much now, but we have used that in the past. And because I'm more familiar with Python, I'm kind of using Python to replace the Access things that I do, because it's easier for me to debug a Python script than it is to debug Access. So, you know, it's what I'm familiar with. It's what works best with the data that's being sent. And you know, depending on the client, you know, if they're not paying for Tableau, well, you know, maybe we shouldn't use that for them.
So when you're talking about automation, like one of the hardest things to deal with is like flexibility, right? Because you haven't got anyone looking up front. Can you talk a little bit about how you deal with like that kind of variety of stuff coming in, how you cover your bases, and then how you monitor what you've got going like as it runs to make sure nothing's going wrong?
Sure. As much as I can, you know, we try to standardize that. And if we can't standardize it up front, then what I'll do is set up some kind of mapping system. Like some of the CSV files that we get will have, well, like the files that came in today. This is data from Google Analytics, and Google Analytics has a number of conversion targets that you can set up. And it gives these a sequential number in the way that they're created in the system. So you know, the whatever is number one in that conversion target, it might not be the same type of conversion with a different location, because maybe that different location didn't need that particular conversion or didn't have that set up at the time. So what Python does in that particular thing is it goes through and it just looks to see, okay, is this a file that has these names in the column heads, has these names in the column heads, and you know, what should those names be so that we can have standard column names and then process from there. And then again, breaking that into smaller pieces. I think that's kind of the Unix model of software, you know, do one thing and just do that. And that allows you to check it when it's done before it goes to the next thing. If you were using like a Unix scripting, bash script or something, you would pipe all of these things together. But it's the same type of process with Python or with any other tool, really.
Cool, thank you.
Sure. Thanks for asking. Oh, yeah. And Taylor says, automate time-consuming process. Client changes input to process. So you cry. Yeah, well, you know, there is that. There is that. I mean, yeah, there is that. But that's also job security. So being able to deal with those things as they come up. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Alex?
No, and I was going to say, like, one way I get around that when I'm working with some clients is I build into my automation that if they submit a bad data file that breaks the contract, I'll let them know saying, hey, you submitted a file, it didn't follow this. If this is intentional and we need to update the process, you know, reach out, let us know. Otherwise, we're not going to do anything with it. That's been an approach I've been taking. I'm building a lot of my data solutions because Sometimes they just fat fingered something. I mean, we're all human. And
Yeah.
a lot of times when a client's sending you data, they're manually putting it together and sending it to you. So it could be sometimes they didn't mean to change the process. They're just like, they're just being human.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, you know, setting up something like this in like an email or something like that, or if you have like a shared Slack, those
Yeah.
are two ways that I typically manage that. One question I have, so Landry, you've been with MP&F what, bit over a year now?
Yeah, about 15 months.
Yeah, so you know, coming out of NSS, what has your kind of learning journey been from coming out of NSS with everything you learned in the data analytics bootcamp to, you know, getting to where you are now?
Wow, you know, the boot camp itself was kind of like drinking from the fire hose, and it's just a different fire hose now. You know, it's been, you know, it's been over a year, so I'm more familiar with what we're doing, what we're working on. But you know, there's still so much to learn. I went through the process of learning Google Ads and Google Analytics. But those are products that, you know, you have to use them almost every day in order to really know how to use them. So, for example, I happen to use Google Ads more, or Google Analytics more than Google Ads. So when I go to Google Ads, I have to kind of, like you were saying earlier with the regex stuff. Okay, now I got to remind myself, how does this work? Where do I look for that? That sort of thing. And I think, you know, as time progresses and I do more with that those things will become second nature. But, you know, at the same time, there, like I said earlier, there's so much data coming in, and this data is, it changes as the client's needs change and that sort of thing. So there's always some kind of learning curve going on there. And that, you know, for me, that's actually a good thing. I think it keeps my brain pliable, keeps me young, and you know, it makes life interesting. I'm a person that likes to learn new things. So I see Grady Robbins is on here, but he hasn't said a word. What's going on, Grady?
Hey, let me, hey, Landry, good to see you. I'm about to turn my camera on and I have a question. Let me see if I can, I'm sorry. I'll, you know, I'm incognito usually. Here's, I don't know if you can see, there's my puppy.
Oh, hey, pup.
Yep. And yeah, man, so good to see you and thank you.
Yeah.
And my question, you know, clickbait, because robots are coming for your data. And in the last like 24 to 48 hours, it's come across in the news, and I put the link in the thing. So I don't know. I just think this is fast. What a time to be alive, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did see that. I don't know if anyone else saw that, the story that Grady posted about these self-replicating xenobots. I believe they're made from undifferentiated cells that were taken from, was it an animal or a plant or something?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I just skimmed the article, so I don't really know what happened.
Oh yeah, and I'm sorry if I'm, you know, kind of taking a hard right turn, but I'm just so excited to ask you this question. Robots are coming for our data, and apparently they're separate, self-replicating now. So
yeah, you know. They apparently are. Although, you know, I skimmed another article which kind of walked that back a little bit, saying, you know, okay, these things they can replicate, but they're not really alive in any way that one would define life. They're not coming for us yet, so to speak.
Oh, right.
But it is an interesting thing because, you know, if you take this automation, this timeline, and you just look out, I don't know, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, a lot of things that we take for granted now that humans have to do are going to be replaced by these software robots. When I was at the State Bar Association, we did an article on the feasibility of artificial intelligence replacing basic lawyer stuff, like drawing up a contract or buying a house, or just basic stuff that lawyers do. It's just step by step. It's always the same thing. The lawyers are a little scared of that. They're worried that robots are going to start litigating and mediating with their clients and that sort of thing, that robots are going to take depositions and represent people in court. And I don't know that that's going to happen anytime soon, but it is interesting to see just where this technology can go.
Absolutely.
And good to see you. Yeah.
And good to see you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Grady, he was at Nashville Software School when I was there, so we've known each other for a bit.
Yeah, and to your great credit, excellent classmate and teammate, and just glad to see you again. I feel like I'm coming out of, like, in the movies when they go warp speed, and like, the lights like come out, and then they're just now coming out. That's, my head is spinning still from NSS. So I just feel like they just sent me into orbit, warp speed.
Yeah.
And I'm still just like, what just happened? So yes, just like you, still learning.
Gotta learn.
Gotta keep going.
Thing, though.
Yep. Good to see you guys. Thank you. I'll step away now.
All right.
Awesome.
Off with your camera.
Any last questions before we wrap up?
Can you guys hear me? This is Ian. I do have a question.
Yes.
I didn't, I just joined probably like 10-15 minutes ago, but I didn't hear most of, I guess, your talk, but I'm very interested in the RPA piece because I'm actually currently working for my company. I'm actually driving some digital transformation. One of the technology I'm using is RPA, robotic process automation. Just curious, like what RPA product you are using, and how do you use it? If you don't mind, just briefly.
Yeah. Good. Thanks for asking that. Automation Anywhere is what I've been kind of playing around with.
Okay.
We're not actually using that in any production stuff yet because it's brand new to me, and it's got a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
Have you used Automation Anywhere? Are you using Solaris or one of the other ones? What do you use?
Well, I guess the big three, right? This is relatively new to me as well, but I work for Citizens Bank, and so within the bank, actually, that we have two approved product. One is actually Blue Prism, right? Another is UiPath. I think Automation Anywhere, that's the third. I think that those three are the most popular. I guess I don't know if it's the most popular, but definitely the top three. Currently, basically, I'm engaging with another corporate data office. Basically, we're doing a POC, proof of concept, and see how that might, drive the automation. And we do a little bit of OCR as well, because I'm actually in the mortgage lending business. So we have a lot of basic document, right? So with document, the first thing, if we want to automate, is actually take the document, typically PDF, let's extract the data, right? And with the data, then we can actually drive, maybe use the RPA, maybe not, drive some, workflow. That type of things, so.
Yeah, I think that's a great use case for that. I just refinanced a house last week, and there's so many documents, so much stuff. I mean, you're in that business. And I think RPA, that's a perfect use case for something like that.
Okay. So you're basically kind of playing around, right, with RPA?
Exactly. Doing some proof of concepts. Seeing what I can use it for.
Yeah. What particular use case you're I guess you're experimenting with?
Two specific things. The one we talked about earlier was logging into a website, going through the website's firewall and navigating to a specific page and then downloading the latest reports.
Okay.
Another one that I tried was taking a PDF that had been scanned and running OCR on that and spitting out a CSV file.
Okay.
I don't know if you were on earlier when Alex Ryan was talking. Tableau has a feature that allows it to read PDFs. So if you have Tableau, you can just drag it into that. But if you're in a situation where you can't use Tableau or whatever, the OCR features of something like Automation Anywhere are super helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And real quick, so any last minute questions? We'll take one more question if anyone has one. We're at time, but we'll take one more. Any takers?
I'm going to make a quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I will just make a quick statement. Just Alice's question she had earlier on kind of the checks and balances of the automation and how, you keep track of what's going on and all of that. One of the things I've noticed in the app script is you can set up triggers that automatically let it know when to do something. If for any reason the script breaks down or whatever it's trying to do, it will then email the account that's associated with app script and let you know where it broke. So that's another little quick check and balance.
That's awesome. No, app script seems really helpful for folks doing a lot of their workflows in Google Sheets.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.
This is not, sorry, one more,
and then we'll take it.
This is not a question, more a quick survey, just curious. So have you guys, I assume you guys all are working with data, right? And have you guys, any of you use a product called a DBT? Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah. Love me some DBT. Yeah, I've rolled it out in a couple of companies and nonprofits I've worked with. Huge fan.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm actually, I'm a huge fan too. I actually started using it a while back ago, and just curious how many of you actually use it. I mean, there's a upcoming, I think actually starting Monday, right? Engineering. That's a good one. Hope you guys are all be joining. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Landry's done a great job of collecting the resources together, so that'll be pretty quick. I usually get the video edited within a day or so, and I'll get that posted up. We should have the resources out probably no later than Friday this week.
Great, great.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Have a great evening. Thanks for coming out.
Good evening.
Thank you.